Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To send me and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So let me go ahead and get y'all informed and educated. On Buy Me a Coffee, I'm going to tell you something about what's going on both sides of the Atlantic. And there is a phenomena for which I would not give you the exact location. And then there are other phenomena for which I'll give you some locations in order to explain what we're facing as Western Black folks and as continental Africans. I'm talking about as Western Black men and continental African men. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all what I can. But that's going to be on Buy Me a Coffee. So go ahead and subscribe, because if you're a one-time donor, you get to hear it for about 24 to 36 hours. If you're a recurring subscriber, you can go back and hear it at any point, inshallah. I wanted to open this one up to tell you that we need a double standard. We need a list of double standards. And one of them that we're going to need is the understanding that it is okay when we do marry out, and it is not okay when she does it by her own standards. We're not tripping, but by her own standards, it's not okay for her to do it. Here's why. Number one, she demands that we win a race war. A war is generally declared before it is fought. We were sneak attacked. If we had done the same thing to Europe and had enslaved the European men and women and done all to them that they had done to us, not only would they have not tolerated it, they would have launched all manner of white revolutions as soon as they would have done so. And they would have cursed God if they felt that he didn't help them enough. And eventually they would have cursed God for even creating us and letting us loose on the planet. But additionally, they would have had the help of many sisters in doing so, even if we had the upper hand. That's the first thing to understand. On the moral basis of we should not have done that in the first place, many sisters would have defected and helped out Zaddy. But when you flip it back into the reality that actually did occur, you did not always have them. You had some. But you had too many of them that were willing to help out Zaddy when he was wrong. As a matter of fact, it was two of them that ruined the Malay revolt of Salvador de Bahia in 1835. Yeah, that was not the United States. That's not all. I'm going to also tell you guys that they say that we only date or marry out due to self-hatred and wanting to escape and wanting to dilute our lineage. And there was a time I would have thought that some of the least educated amongst us would do that. And then I realized that those dudes were joking, silly. There was no black male agenda to dilute our lineage and our bloodline, but I think there will be soon, because in all honesty, sisters have behaved so nastily and rudely and obstinately and stubbornly over the last few years that I myself no longer want. I've learned at this point to not take 4C hair and wide noses as being attractive anymore. I could have, but I can't anymore. I one time had to catch myself because a black Saudi lady was going to ask me about her attendance in the class I was teaching. And she had nothing to do with the gender war. But I was about to get on about asking me about attendance, since I told the class, don't ask me about attendance, ask me about English. Her English was not good enough to justify her questioning me about her attendance, her being absent. I had to stop and say, hold up, you asking me about attendance after I told you all not to? And I said, don't ask me in Arabic either. Y'all are supposed to use English to ask any questions about it. And that's if you were there that day. So you gonna ask me about this in Arabic after I told you not to? And I looked at her nose as I was saying, and it dawned on me she had nothing to do with this gender war. Now, she did get out of pocket. She broke a rule, but I was going to go extra hard on instead of just a little calm sarcasm. I was about to actually grill her like, oh, so you're going to play retarded, huh? I was going to do that. So even I'm not immune to the brainwashing of the sister. I'm not immune to her efforts to make her unattractive in our eyes. She's done it, and she succeeded with me in steps. And she has succeeded with some other brothers. And I didn't think this could happen to me at my age, but she is succeeding, and that means she is really determined. She is suffering from self-hatred, and that's why she not only chooses Zaddy, that is also why if she can't get Zaddy, her plan B is a wannabe Zaddy. The Arab, the Northern Indian, the Pakistani, the Afghan, the Persian, the Chinese man, the Japanese man, and the Korean man. Not even so much Japanese because they might actually be too friendly to us, but the Chinese and the Korean man because they don't mind calling us whatever the N word is in their language. These are groups that are known to really value white acceptance and devalue us, which is unfortunate for the Arab because they don't do that as much as they're thought to. Hell, they're not even all the same. Like Africans, they're very widely scattered in their opinions and everything else. They don't even all understand each other when they speak, to be honest. That's another secret. That's a topic for another recording. This being said, getting back to the main topic here, I'm saying simply that when you see her out with Zaddy, she invited him. When you see us out with anybody else, she invited us. Do you see a pattern here? And so therefore, it's really, she had more control over who she was with than we did over who we're with. That's the environment. So it's not okay when she points a finger at us and asks why we're with who we're with. End of. And not only that, but you're never good enough. I mean, Idris Elba had paternity fraud run on him. I'm not even calling it discrepancy, but outright fraud. She knew. Morris Chestnut had something similar before he became successful with the Boys in the Hood movie. Hell, Jason Love, the bed buck. Same thing in his case. He's not allowed to just raise his own. He has to raise someone else's. And this is Jason Love. He's big and bad enough to go shoot up the club inside of some white dude's white wife. But he's not allowed to raise his own. Even he's not immune to the paternity fraud. And so I'm saying this to say that the double standard we need to have and to promote is that no, it is not the same. And unfortunately, this is not something that is only going to have to be talked about in the Americas, but also in the continent. You see, there are parts of the continent where we also are still unpreferred and unchosen by our own if you put us and the colonizer right next to each other. Parts of the continent that are like that. There are parts that are not as well, but there are parts of the continent where, you know what, you get that sister choice between us and a colonizer, should go for that colonizer every time. See, Michael Oliver did what Roger Allen Pope did. Roger Allen Pope, DJ Kid, did this in the Carolinas. Michael Oliver did this in Eastern Africa, I think Kenya mostly. Both bragged about how easy it was to give STIs to black women and even under the noses of black men. And I don't want you all to think that some of the sexual dysfunction about which we know occurs and happens to only us. That's not true either. You see, there are chunks of the sexual dysfunction that occur even in Egypt. Alpha male lifestyles, aka Ahmed Metwali, who feels comfortable calling us the N word with the hard R, um, has a particular knack for telling on what goes on in Egypt. And he has said that you even have these wives of successful men in Egypt who get some money and they will pay these young guys to come through and hit that. And when he's done, he walks out through the living room and the husband sitting on the couch sees him and says, Salam alaikum. And he's like, Wa alaikum salam. And he goes on out the door. And I'm sitting up thinking to myself, you got to be kidding myself. How do you give that greeting, Salam alaikum, when you are sharing the same lady and y'all know it? I mean, granted, there's no reason for the fussing and fighting, but it's like, how you trading that greeting? I would just tilt my head and wave if I'm already guilty of some dumb stuff like that. I'd tilt my head and wave. Then again, I'm not knowingly sharing someone like that. And I've had Egyptian men tell me before that Egyptian women now demand all the rights they have as Muslims and all the rights that the West would award them and afford them as non-Muslims, and they just demanding both. Like they're just entitled to everything, and that they don't even that sometimes they don't even care if they marry two husbands. It's illegal for a man to marry two women. He might go to jail, but recently a woman married two men. She was arrested and then nothing was ever heard about later on, which probably means she was released under pressure, international pressure. We'll give you some aid money, but let that woman go. What? Meanwhile, you got dudes in jail because they marry more than one, if they do. And so I have to look at these. I've got to look at these situations and think, okay, so it's not just us. That's true. But what we are facing is a situation in which we are told to actually forego marriage opportunities and stay unnaturally alone and raise other men's kids for the sake of women that would accept none of these things. That what is different and unique about us is that we are told to actually not consider anyone else in the name of keeping it black for the same woman who would not do the same for us. Quiet as it's kept, you want to know one of the reasons why it is that we are not more diluted a population genetically than what we are, if that's such a concern for you? I'll tell you what it is. Now we do understand. We're learning this. And that is that you see a lot of sisters cannot get these men even to fornicate with them. Just, giving the draws away, they'll meet with success and failure at that. Or sisters can get brothers to smash that, but, trying to get these other men, they meet with failure and success. It's both. They meet with, because they can go to clubs and try to give it up to some dude that's not one of us. And some of them will say, okay, that's all it is, I'll do it. And others will be like, no, I'm going to pass. Nope, I don't even want to just lay down with it. I don't do that. I don't do that. There's some that will say, I don't stick it in blackness. And that's the end of it. And so that's the last thing I was going to say about this double standard. You see, when they start saying, well, look at the results, when we do it, we stay together with them forever. Well, that's because they get the guys they get. Those guys aren't able to get somebody else anyway, and she's not going to leave him. And many men, generally speaking, don't ask for a divorce after they've already gotten married. So, of course, they're never going to file, so they're not going to leave. So if it is true that black, female, white, male couplings are the least likely to result in a divorce, well, that's the reason why right there. That's if that's even true. BGS had a way of explaining that that's not even true to begin with. I couldn't follow it all. But if it had been, the only reason would have been that she's never going to leave that massa. And the master she can get to marry her as he's already going to marry, he'll stay with her as long as she stays. And eventually those guys get the same Keisha that we get. Shout out to AC for pointing that out. I'm telling you all now, the results are vastly different because you see what we are always seeing every few months is that when a brother gets with one of them Beckys, in order for him to really truly wind up being a victim, he has to be financially well off, and he's a victim in the courts if he marries her, and that takes time because you don't start off like that. Or he's a victim because he underestimates the danger that they pose because he's not actually familiar with them in an environment because his parents couldn't tell him. Like Christian Obumseli. He wound up being stabbed to death by that Becky, and I think she's still out on bail if I'm not mistaken. But you know what? Christian's parents couldn't tell him how bad they really were because as far as they felt, as far as they knew, they'd kicked the British out. That's how they felt. And I will give it to his particular parents' nationality. They do generally fight back. But again, they tend to underestimate the damage that these folks pose when you are by yourself. Christian Obumseli was by himself with her. They did not understand the depths of the hatred and the depths of the programming that was in her. And quiet as it's kept, I think she would have done that to any man. That's a one-off, actually. What's different is that we might marry, date them, it works, it doesn't work. It's about the same as dating a sister, except it probably works for longer and better while it lasts. But, you know, when sisters are out here finally getting someone to take them out on a date, especially a zaddy, well, we already know where that leads. We see where that's going. You might want to go ahead and ask her to write out her will before she leaves for that date, the way things have been going. We keep on hearing about them winding up not with us anymore. It's not even because all white guys are like that and they're all the same, but it's because the ones that are willing to take them out on dates and be seen in public with them are already unhinged enough to, after being seen in public with them on a date, do them in. Commit a capital crime with them as the victim. And I figured that something was off because you know what? Why would a man just never have killed anybody before and then turn around and do that to one lady he's dating? Well, it turns out this last guy that got picked up for Sade Robinson was searched after his arrest, and it seems that other human remains were found in his property. This means Sade Robinson is the first time he got caught. The evidence suggests that. Not the first time he committed this capital crime. You see where this is going? Strange, isn't it? Yeah, it's a trip. So let me go ahead and tell you all that we're going to have to focus on this double standard. Now, we need to internalize this amongst ourselves. Those of you who choose to engage and debate with Boom Chic and Bonquisha can continue if you want to. I don't tell you to do it. I'm just saying that if you do choose to, you need to be ready with these responses too, so you can keep it short and quick. Yeah, you know what, Boom Shika, you right. It ain't the same when we do it as it is when you do it. We don't die in the process. We are the ones that were being asked out, whereas you're asking Zaddy out. And we're not doing it out of self-hatred, but you're doing it out of self-hatred. So yes, that's what it is. A three-prong double standard. And there shall be more to come, inshallah, but we're going to have to understand the importance of double standards. That's the important thing for us. Know that they are important. And that we no longer apologize for them because we've sat up and witnessed that sisters never apologize for theirs, even when they're just plain wrong and hypocritical. And they're thinking of another one as we speak. Go ahead and go to my Buy Me a Coffee. Check out what's happening in the homeland, to a certain extent, how it's affected us. You can do that by subscribing. One-time donor will get you access within the next 24 hours, but recurring subscribers will be able to hear it into perpetuity. And I want to thank those who support it. I want to thank S. Jock for coming through on the Cash App from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind, bro. And I want to thank D. Smith again. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like in the black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying with us again here at Jet Black Airways, with the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.